what we call human society.
What's important for me is that we humans have a connection in our heart with all there is, and you have had this experience where you have been in the state where you were seeing the other reality, but most of us don't have that. But for me it's important that we go away from our brain thinking and from our gut feeling, which can be manipulated. Our heart cannot be manipulated because that's on a higher frequency than these forces have. They can't reach it. So what is your message to the people to overcome all these things over the heart and in your daily life?
Well, there's an organization in America called the Heart Math Institute that's done a lot of work looking at the power of the heart, not the power of the physical heart, though they are connected, well, not physical heart, of course, but this vortex, series of vortexes through the body which interpenetrate different levels of being in the human energetic fields we call the body, and they have different points of interaction with the wider reality. The brain is basically a low level, compared with this, is a low level of perception. The brain thinks, and the brain thinks for a simple reason: it doesn't know. So it has to work it out, or try to work it out. The emotional vortex chakra in the belly, that doesn't think, it reacts. It reacts with an emotional response, doesn't think. So what humanity has had done to it is it's been manipulated out of the heart interaction with the wider reality, which I'll come to, and into a combination of the gut, emotional response without thinking, and thinking which doesn't know. That's why it's trying to work it out. Now, just look at the body language, which tells you everything. Body language is an open book on so much. People say, I'm thinking, hold on, I'm thinking. They're pointing to the head, because that's where they think. When they know, where do their hands go? Where do our hands go? I just know. They go here instinctively, because this knows, because it's connected to a level of consciousness beyond this program, beyond this manipulation, that does know. That's why it knows. I just intuitively know. I don't know why I've got to be there tomorrow. I just know I have. And you go there, and suddenly some synchronistic thing happens, which wouldn't have got done if you'd have listened to this, which was going, "What are you going to go there for? That's ridiculous. You've got an appointment tomorrow." You know, which is always trying to talk us out of following this. I mean, if I look at my life over the last nearly 30 years, when I've been on this journey, it's simply been one thing. When this and this have been in conflict, I've gone with this. Simple as that. So I've uncovered all this information is because this has led me to it. This would have said, "Oh, you don't have to go there tomorrow." No, I know. Think of the inconvenience. Doesn't matter. I know. And what if you look at the details of the way the manipulation works and the way it's worked in the deeper in the shadows, it's to shut this down. It's to shut this down. People ask, should I go with my heart? I mean, the language is looking us in the face. Should I go with my heart? Should I go with my head? What does your gut tell you? What does your gut tell you? What does my emotions tell me? Should I go with my head? Well, let me have a think. Should I go with my heart? I know. And so this has been shut down. And if you look at the world that's depicted in the Avatar movies with the Na'vi, the blue people, they were a heart society in the sense that through the heart they knew that everything was one.
They connect to trees and animals.
Exactly. They were communicating with the trees. They were communicating with the animals, because they were able to do that because they were tapping into a field of consciousness which the animals and trees and the natural world are also tapped into, and therefore it's like a bush telegraph, if you like. You could describe it as. That's where the communication was possible, so what they were doing was communicating from the heart. And what has happened to humanity is we've been pulled out of the heart into the head and the gut. If you look at the way people respond and view the world and interact with the world, it's either from the head or it's from the gut, emotion. It's increasingly emotion. That's why we live in an increasingly post-fact world. It's because it's all coming from emotion, nothing to do with fact. We're even being pulled out of the head into that now. How many interact with the world through their heart, through their intuition, through their empathy with what other people are suffering? Because this is where we get empathy from, this is where we get compassion from, this is where we get true love from, not attraction love as I call it, or mind love. Ooh, yeah, fancy you, you look nice. Instead, it's this connection, which manifests itself, funnily enough, not in, ooh, you look nice, or, oh, yeah, I like that, it manifests as friendship. Friendship. Think of friendship.
From heart to heart.
Heart to heart. That's what friendship is.
Yeah.
But because we connect love with men and women, or men and men, women and women, whatever, being attracted to each other and having sex, that's love. No, that's attraction. You can have that and friendship, but how many relationships have the attraction, but they don't have the friendship? They don't last that long, do they?
Yeah.
So if I'm attracted to you, and person's attracted to me on this level, then a relationship might start. But most of those kind of relationships become wars of control. Who's going to control the relationship? You're not doing what I want. You're not doing what I want. Oh no, you do that to me, I'm leaving. Slam.
Yeah.
What does friendship do? It's a great line, a great line. A friend is the one who walks into the room when everyone else walks out.
Yeah,
because friendship, a heart friendship, which is what friendship really is, true friendship, says, I don't agree with what you've done, but I'm here for you. It's a completely different level of connection to, how dare you do that to me, I'm going home to me mother, slam.
Actually, you come around a lot, you have been on a world tour, I come around a lot also, and there are people sometimes, they are cold, you don't feel them on the heart level, they can be highly intelligent, they can be very successful, but you don't feel them.
Exactly.
But there's, in my impression, there are much more people than you think who are really hearty people and nice, and this doesn't describe it maybe good, but who really have this heart feeling. Average people, wherever we are around, what's your perception? Can they really kill all that humans have?
Well, what they're trying to do is complete the job of destroying that through connectedness to artificial intelligence. Part of that will be to shut down the heart completely. But because the heart is so powerful, the energy is so powerful, the level of frequency it's connected to is so powerful, they have to work 24/7 all the time to keep that closed. And you know, it's like, you know, we had that. I'll give you an example of how it can just break out. You know, the tower block in London that was subject to that extraordinary fire, which was just burned the place down. Lots and lots of people died. Yeah. Children.
Much more than here.
Children died, yeah. And people lost family, loved ones. It was absolutely horrific. Now, in that tower block were Muslims and different people from different cultures, white people, whatever. And if you look at that from the perception of many people, which is, you know, racial tension and racial prejudice and all that. And maybe, I'm sure, without any question, people would have looked at what was the kind of people that were in that block, and they would have had a racial standpoint, or maybe a racial prejudice, whatever. But when that burnt down, in the extraordinary horror of it, that went out the window. Not with everybody, because some people are so bigoted they'll never recover in this lifetime. But people, suddenly it was like, boom. What's it matter what color they are? What's it matter where they came from? What's it matter what their religion is? And so there's this great outpouring of compassion. But then, of course, what happens is, like the initial reaction response, the compassionate response, the empathetic response, then, you know, people get on with their lives, and things come up in the news to take the place of Grenfell House, the Tower Block, and what happened there, and people go back. If we could just hold that instead of going back to this, then the world will be a very, very different place, because this knows that your color, your creed, your religion, it doesn't matter. It's just an illusion, a set of experiences, an illusory set of labels. This lives that world. Yeah. This knows it's a nonsense.
Those forces try to keep us in fear. They have terror attacks all the time, and people are not reacting like they think we should react. That they say we need more police. Okay, that's being said, but actually there should be civil war by now through all these terrorist attacks. But people are much more, they're not reacting the way the Archons think we react. Do you see that?
Well, this Joe has been one of the great powers of the alternative media, because before the alternative media started communicating in any way widely, while we were still putting leaflets out, people got their version of a world event, a terrorist attack, or a war, whatever, from the mainstream news. So, of course, they got the official narrative unquestioned overwhelmingly, with a few honorable exceptions, and they are a few. And so their perceptions were formed from that knowledge. Some people had a natural skepticism about authority and maybe said, I'm not sure I believe that, but most people did, because there was no other narrative. There was no, if a terrorist attack happened, there was no other explanation for it except the one you saw on the news or read in the newspaper. What the alternative media has done, why they're trying to delete it, is say, actually, there's another way of looking at this. Like, what if they were just creating a problem here on purpose so that they could offer a solution to the problem to change the world in ways that would never have been allowed had they not had the problem, with what I call problem, reaction, solution. And people have gone, well, actually, that sounds as if that, you know, I could have sympathy with that. And then they watch that actually, as a result of that attack or whatever it is, whatever the problem is, they actually have done now what people in the alternative media said they would do as a result of this. And people have gone, well, hold on a minute. So when the next one comes along, then they're no longer saying, oh yeah, it's on the news, this is what happened. They're going, well, hold on a minute. And this is what we're talking about. The fact that people are now more and more questioning, you know. I mean, RT, the Russian station, has this mantra and kind of slogan of question more. No. Question everything. That's what we need to do, because everything needs to stand up to our scrutiny. Don't let things into your perceptual processes unchecked, unquestioned, unobserved. Don't let them enter your subconscious and be your sense of reality without question. Question everything. And I'll tell you, after 30 years nearly of experience in this, when you question almost everything, it doesn't stand up to questioning, especially if it's delivered by a man in a dark suit or even a woman in a dark suit.
When I first heard your name and people are looking for you on the internet, they'll find the reptilian topic. how important is that for you today? When I listened to your lecture, it's not really the topic that there are reptilians, maybe the Queen or the royals have a connection. Is that still important to you?
Oh, absolutely. The thing is, when I do these talks, the person who directed the cameras yesterday for a DVD of the talk that we recorded, he did recorded my talk at Wembley Arena in London in 2012 and in 2014. And he said to me after the talk yesterday, it's moved on, hasn't it? And of course, it must move on. It's interesting. Years ago, I used to speak at multi-speaker conferences, alternative conferences, UFO conferences, all these kind of things, particularly in America. And I would watch people make presentations, and I'd think, yeah, that's interesting, and all that stuff. And then I would go back 5 years later, and I would watch the same people speak, and they'd say the same things. It moved on a day. Now, there's so much to know. We can't be going round in circles. We can't go into a cul-de-sac or an alcove and sit there and just keep repeating the same stuff. We've got to move on. We've got to more and more and more knowing what's going on. So what the talk has done is moved on. What the books have done is move on. There's no point in me repeating what I've said about the whole reptilian subject in detail, at length before, excuse me, again now. Because if people want to hear that or read that, they go to those books and they'll get the whole full detail. As I've understood more and things change in the world, then you start to emphasize that and what that means, which is not in the earlier books. So this is why. It's not because you're saying, oh, that's not important anymore and I wish I hadn't said it. Absolutely not. But there's no point in just going over and over and over what's available elsewhere. So yes, this whole reptilian thing is very, very important. I mean, what chances are there that in the Nag-Hammadi texts that have been in a sealed jar between about 400 AD and 1945, that they would talk about this archontic force, this archontic consciousness, what they call the formless ones, very much in the way the Islamic belief system describes the jinn, just different names for the same force. What are the chances that these Gnostic texts would describe two of the ways that this consciousness, this distorted consciousness takes form, are through a reptilian form and a form that looks like a grey fetus with big dark black eyes. I mean, they're describing the reptilian form. They're describing what we call the greys. People might say, well, there's a lot of interpretations, but it's difficult to argue against the fact that they are describing what people are describing today in modern times in terms of entities that they've interacted with and been abducted by, etc. So what are the chances of that? And I think this is an important kind of correlation or connection between what I was saying about the reptilians, who are obsessed with technology, that's their way of control, technology, and what is happening now with transhumanism. Because this reptilian force, which is just a vehicle for this archontic distortion, which is why they're psychopathic. It's why humans are psychopathic. It's why these 1% are psychopathic, because they're all different expressions of this same psychopathic awareness, consciousness. And so these reptilians don't operate in our world. Some do. Some operate within our world, but most of the manipulative ones operate outside of our visible light frequency range. So we have what you might call a timeline in our world, where we say human history, and then we discovered bronze, and then all the rest of it, steel and what have you, smartphones. But in the timeline of this reptilians, in their reality, all this technology that is coming out and is called cutting edge technology and the latest gadget. The reptilians in their reality had that technology, knew about that technology, when humans were knocking rocks together. So what has happened, and of course there is an interface, not least in deep underground military bases in places like America, which go way down into the ground, and you need a higher security clearance the lower you go, where there's an interface between these reptilian entities and these grey entities with that technological knowledge and human scientists working for this elite. And so that's where the technology transfer takes place for this high technology. As I said in the talk and in the book, Everything You Need to Know But Never Been Told, people, we surely are not naive enough to believe that these people are sitting around a table who desperately need this computerized technology and high technology for mass control. Without it, they couldn't do it. And they're just sitting there waiting, going, when is some geek in a garage going to invent what we need for the next stage of control? Are you having a laugh? I watched a two-part BBC documentary on Silicon Valley, The Devil's Playground, which is about controlling the flow of information and driving this transhumanist agenda, connecting us to AI. And there was a sequence in one of these documentaries of garage doors in California. And the reporter was saying, behind this garage door, this gadget that changed the world was invented, and this gadget behind this garage door. And I can imagine these manipulators watching that, sitting around a table going, too many garage doors. We've got to change the narrative here, or they're going to suss what's going on. No more garage door cover stories. Because they're not going, when's the geek going to get the next stage? Oh, God. Ooh. No, it's being transferred. And that's why the speed of transfer of this high technology, which is absolutely essential to this AI human takeover, is coming in and coming in and coming in. All they've got is the cover stories to explain why it's coming in. Why is DARPA and the CIA funding the seed funding the technologies that come out through Apple, that come out through these, yeah, all these things? Why do they fund that? Why was Google seed funded by the CIA before it became known as Google? I mean, look at it. And therefore, what we're seeing is a technological transfer out of this other dimension, this reptilian, with a reptilian grey force. That's pushing this agenda on. That's why people like Ray Kurzweil, the PR man for Frankenstein, a Google executive, is one of the forefront promoters of this transhumanism. That's why he's accurately, over the years, something about 80% accuracy, they say, predicting when things are going to happen. He's now saying that humanity will be connected to the cloud, AI, by 2030, because they are aware of when the technology is going to be rolled out. They're not waiting for it to be invented. It's already invented. It was invented while people were knocking rocks together and going ugh. So this is what's happening. And so the reptilian thing is, no, it's not less important. But I can now put it into a context of modern events in a way that obviously you couldn't before. Okay, David, we have to wrap it up. And the main topic is that there are forces, called the archons or whatever, artificial intelligence, and it's trying to transform us humans into them, yeah, without a heart. But yeah, we have the chance to be in our heart and stay humans. Is that the main message that you have? I wouldn't even say stay human, because I think, you know, if we self-identify with human, we're again self-identifying with a label. The prime thing is to remember that we're consciousness. And when the Ray Kurzweils of this world say we'll become superhuman if we allow our minds to become AI minds, that's a con. Of course, it's a con. It's just a selling point. It's a It's just the nightmare being sold as a dream. We are already superhuman. We are already beyond human. Human is just a vehicle and an experience for the I that we are, which is consciousness, a state of awareness. That's what we need to self-identify with. And then, I'll tell you from experience, you start to see things you couldn't see before. You start to see pictures instead of pixels that you could see before.
But for humans have the connection, we have the heart connection.
This is the connection, yeah. This is the connection. You know, if I had to put my hand somewhere on my body, steady, that is close to the true identity of human awareness. It wouldn't be here, and it wouldn't be here. Be here. This is as close within the human form that you get to the true I.
It's me.
Yeah, I. Yeah. I. Me. This is I, or this is the nearest expression of the true I that you can have in human form.
Thank you, David, for what you do
Pleasure.
over the years. And
thanks, Joe.
Thank you. I hope we see each other. We have done interviews over so many years now, and I hope someday we will have a laugh about what's going on.
Well, I ain't stopping, mate. I ain't stopping.
Right.
Just going to run faster.
Thank you, David.
Cheers, Joe.